Well, good evening to everyone watching live and to those who are tuning in at another time. It is good to have you on Sunday Night Insights. Here we take 25 minutes to discuss leadership and personal growth topics that matter and inspire you towards freedom, flourishing, and fulfillment. This evening, I'm going to chop it up with probably one of the most talented people in my circle, Sheena Marquis. Sheena is a wonderful example of Jesus. And if you know her, you know this. She models the way of Jesus in everything she says and does. She's a wife, a mother, a speaker, a counselor, and a coach. And tonight we are talking about purpose and fulfillment. Now, I love this quote from 16th century French philosopher Michel de Montaigne. He says this: "The soul which has no fixed purpose in life is lost. To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Now, other terms related to purpose are words like ambition or aspiration or desire, or another one. In certain circles, we might refer to purpose as calling. The Oxford Dictionary describes purpose this way: the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. Now, I don't think it does any harm to that definition to exchange the word something for someone. Ancient literature suggests this, that the whole duty of man, in other words, the purpose of humanity, is to fear God and keep his commandments. Purpose. That's what we want to talk about this evening. The interactions between our purpose and our sense of fulfillment. And I'm so thrilled that my friend Sheena agreed to hang out with me virtually this evening, discussing the connections between calling and contentment, purpose and fulfillment. Hey there, Sheena. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes of your time this evening.
Of course. I'm so honored to be asked to be included in this, and I've gleaned so much from Sunday Night Insights the past 2 weeks since we've relaunched. So
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. Now, before we begin, Sheena, I have a very, very important question on this Thanksgiving week. I need to know something about turkey.
Oh, okay.
Are we talking bake and based or deep fried? I need to know this.
I've had it both ways, and I like it both ways. What I don't like is a dry turkey, and it has to be seasoned. So if you're basting your turkey, if you're baking it, if you're frying it, please season, please season your meat, people.
You know what? That is probably the safest, most diplomatic answer that I've heard to that question. And I just want to say I appreciate the thought you put into that. Uh, so, yeah, Sheena, why don't you tell us a little bit about Sheena Marquis? What do we need to know about you?
Okay, sure. So as you said, I'm a wife, I'm a mom. I am a social worker. So I spend my days in the hospitals with people at some of the hardest moments in their lives. And so being able to take up that space with them, to be in those moments and to hear their stories and to counsel them, sometimes even pray with them, is just such a blessing to be able to do that. I live in Dallas, Texas. It's about 40 degrees, maybe 30 degrees outside. So having just moved from sunny Florida about a year ago, it's an adjustment getting used to, but this is where I'm from.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
you're at home.
I'm home. Yes.
Okay. Got it. Sheena, I was just thinking about the fact that you work with people, as you said, at some of the most difficult times of their lives, and that indeed, I mean, just talking about purpose and calling, that's not something you could do if it weren't, if you weren't called to that. And so I just want to honor that choice of what you're doing. I know it makes a big difference in folks' lives, and I was there last year in November as my grandfather passed away, and having a skilled social worker, someone who cares and who has compassion, makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
So thank you for that work that you do. So let's get started on this topic, Sheena, of purpose and fulfillment. I wonder if you could go back and speak to yourself at 13, 14 years old. Um, what are three things you would tell little Sheena?
Yeah. So this is a question that had me thinking for a little bit, trying to put myself back in 13-year-old Sheena's mindset in her shoes. And the first thing I thought of, which kind of made me laugh, is don't straighten your hair. But but in a much bigger sense, kind of being able to embrace what makes me unique. Because at that point in my life, and I think for so many of our young people, it's how can we fit in? How can we be like everybody else? How can we, not stand out? But how can we assimilate? And so for
Mm,
me, I would have told myself, embrace what makes you unique. And I think too, even struggling with identity, being half black and half Mexican, not really being black enough for my black friends or Mexican enough for my Mexican family friends. Just being confident in who I am, I guess
yeah,
I would say. But yeah, embrace what makes you unique. Find people that come from the same background as you as kind of encouragement, as inspiration, so that you're not aspiring to fit a mold that you were never meant to be in. Yeah.
yeah,
I would also tell myself there is such a thing as false humility, um,
mm,
in trying to make yourself smaller or trying not to stand out so much in a way that might be threatening, or that might be a way that might draw too much attention to yourself.
right.
Um, and I know Danielle Strickland says that humility is agreeing with God about who you are. And so now looking back and realizing, we don't have to dim our light that God gave us, right?
Yeah,
If it makes other people feel uncomfortable, that's a them problem.
yeah,
But, my job, my purpose is to shine the light that God gave me to give him glory. And if I'm not doing that, then who else is doing that? And the last thing I would say to myself is just practice your skills, practice your abilities. I had band teachers and choir teachers that would tell us all the time, practice what you have and you'll get better. And I wish I would have heeded that advice, because I'm sure my skill set would be, even further today than it is now, because I spent a lot of my free time, just doing silly things, and I could have been more disciplined. And so just thinking about what could have been, I guess,
yeah.
might be some of that advice. Yeah.
Which of those three things do you think would have meant the most to hear from you at
Mm,
13 years old?
I think probably a combination of the first two is, finding out who you are, and not being ashamed of it, and figuring out how do you hone what God has given you, so that um, you can use it to give him glory. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Sheena. If you get that opportunity, go back to South Carolina too and find a 13-year-old Marion. Tell him all the stuff that you just said. He won't listen, but try, okay?
Yeah.
Well, what you just said to yourself by imagination had a lot to do with process.
Mm,
Becoming who you are. It's interesting. Not a lot of people know this, but you're into music. You might know a group called Indigo Girls. Have you heard of them?
I have
Okay.
it.
All right, good.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, Indigo Girls. Look them up. They have this song. I was listening to it this morning that talks about essentially it took a long time for you to become who you are. And I've listened to them for maybe 30 years, and I've never heard that song, but it just hit me this morning.
Wow.
But yeah, I'll put it in the chat a little bit later, but the words were just beautiful. And it was one of those moments where I just, I put my cell phone on so that I could read the lyrics as they were singing it. And I thought, why didn't I hear this, 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
But you talked about process in your quote, right?
Mm,
You about fulfillment not being product or outcome, but being process. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
yeah. So for those of you who are not believers, but followers, studiers of the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 1. So I'm like, everything has to be good. It has to be perfect. It has to be right. I'm very future oriented, looking at the next thing. What am I working on? And I I think I posted probably over the summer that I had started the process of getting my clinical supervision so that I could become a counselor, going to be doing some provisionally licensed therapy. And someone wrote me a message as a response to that saying, wow, I really feel called to be a counselor. And, I'm so excited to start the journey and see what kind of steps it would take me to get there. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me, because in my brain, I'm like, I'm so far away, right? I'm getting supervision from a doctor of social work, right, who's been practicing for over 20 years. But that comment had me pause and kind of look back and see, where have I been, right? That I went to college, I went to grad school, right? That I had these internships, and I've had, 7 years of pastoral counseling, that I didn't just arrive here and I'm not just heading somewhere, but like there are things that I have learned all along the way, and just reminded me that, I could be so focused on the product, on where I'm trying to get to, that I can miss where I've already been, and even miss what's going on around me. Like, what opportunities do I have right now that I can be focused on and grateful for?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that definitely speaks to the process of becoming, and just taking it moment by moment. At Star Gospel Mission, where I lead and work now, we always we end, our benediction is the Serenity Prayer, the entire Serenity Prayer, which says taking one day at a time, and those are powerful words. Just not focusing on everything that you want, the product, but enjoying the process.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I can see that in you. I'm a Enneagram 1 as well. We cause a lot of trouble with our.
There's a right way, people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, so you had this person say to you, I want to do what you do. I want to study social work, and it causes you to think about process, right? Not just the product, but enjoying the process along the way. What if someone says to you, I guess I have purpose, but I don't really know how to find it, to identify my purpose? Sheena, what kind of guidance would you give them if there's somebody who's watching tonight or in another time who says, I can't really put my finger on it. I feel compelled, I feel called, I feel carried along, but I just can't put my finger on my purpose. How do you advise them?
Yeah. So I think the word purpose can seem really big and profound and scary sometimes. But purpose is really, who am I, and what position has God placed me in? So like, everybody has a story. What's your story? What has been maybe a struggle? What have been your victories? What has God brought you through? And just knowing that there's somebody out there who probably needs to hear that, right? Because there's somebody who is going through what you've already been through. So what's your story, right? What gifts do you have? And it might not be anything that, might put you on a stage, right? But we're not here to be famous. We're here to be faithful, right? So what gifts do you have? What do you have to offer? And then where are you positioned? And how can you use what you already have where you are? Those are questions that I wish I would have started asking myself maybe at 13 years old. What's my testimony? What gifts do I have? Where am I positioned? How can I use what I have now? And then also, how can you grow? Because it's not just about, what do I have? Let me use it. But how can I hone those gifts? How can I get better? Because, we don't want to be stagnant. We want to be pushing forward. We want to be doing what we can and really not burying those talents in the ground, if you will, but making use of them, getting a return on that investment that the Lord has placed in us. So an example for myself, like my story, my testimony, I'm a survivor of homelessness. My family came to the Salvation Army shelter. I'm a child to a domestic violence survivor. And the Lord has brought us faithfully through those things. What gifts do I have? I believe with the life that we've lived, God has given me a heart of compassion. Um, he's given me the gift of communication, whether that be through music, through speaking, through writing. And where am I uniquely positioned right now in my community, right? How can I pour into the people in my church? How can I use those gifts in the hospital where I work? How can I love on my family with the gifts that the Lord has given me,
Yeah.
right? Because I think sometimes, especially in this social media world that we're in, we see, how can I get more followers, or how can I, do that? And I think it's more about um, the expansion versus being faithful exactly where you are now.
Yeah.
Um, and so some of the ways that I'm trying to grow my own gifts, I've joined the Women Speaker Collective, which I've been a part of the last 2 years now. And so that's a collaborative of women who have the same desire to speak and to communicate. Um, I started my clinical supervision so I can work towards my counseling license. Writing music, writing articles, the occasional blog posts, but whatever I'm doing in my small sphere of influence, I want to be faithful, because at the end, I know God's not going to ask me, how big of an impact did you make? He's going to ask, what did you do with the gifts that I gave you? How are you faithful in those?
Yeah. Whew, that's a lot of content,
Sorry.
Sheena. No, man, just it's just fantastic, and I just even I just want to hold space for your story right
Mm,
now. It's amazing, and I think what you what came to mind as you were speaking is the nature of purpose, is that purpose is not often discovered or experienced in isolation.
mm,
Purpose is very often experienced in community. You
yeah.
know, you went from homelessness and you found yourself at the Salvation Army, where there's a community of people striving toward homefulness, right? And not only that, Sheena, the fact that right now you have found a tribe
Yeah.
of women speakers who can sharpen you, can guide you. There are some of them who might be a little bit further down the road than
Sure.
you, and there's others who are further behind you. But I think the whole notion of purpose being interdependent and not
Mm,
independent
yeah.
is important. And so as you were speaking, I was just downloading everything you were saying and being inspired by that. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that with us,
Yeah.
your story, Sheena. Um, One of the things that I've been asked is, how can someone know when they're out of sync, when they're out of alignment with their purpose, Sheena?
Yeah. Um, so I think this is what I thought when I read that question, is what came to me. We can spend our time doing a lot of good things,
Yeah.
but they may not always be the right things.
Mm.
Um, and there's a theologian, Howard Thurman. He said, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go and do
Mm.
that. Because
Oh,
what the world needs is people who have come alive. Um, and I think, yeah, we can spend all day doing the right things, the things that are expected of us. But if it's not aligned with our gifts, if it's not aligned with our passions, if it's not aligned with our story, and if it's draining, like if we're like getting up and begrudgingly doing those good things,
right.
versus doing things that are life giving, that are making us come alive, then that's kind of an idea that, hey, maybe I'm not aligned with the purpose that God has for me. Like, I can be doing good, but it might not be right for me, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. That's good. Um, yeah. I love that quote. I found it real quick. Howard
Yeah.
Thurman. Want to make sure that our viewers have a chance to look at that. But it's interesting, Sheena, that in speaking about being in alignment with with your purpose, that there's also connections to being alive. Your
Yeah.
purpose brings life out of you. It brings you to life. And so thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I have found, especially uh, recently, is that sometimes purpose, even though it's pulling you along, Sheena, sometimes purpose can be scary,
Hmm.
right? I mean, you spoke about it a moment ago. What you would tell your 13-year-old self is that don't essentially don't be afraid to be radiant,
Yeah.
right? Because you've been fearfully and wonderfully made and created to be radiant, to shine. But sometimes, um, a calling can be scary.
Hmm.
And you've alluded to the fact that that fulfillment is a process, and some processes, some procedures, especially in the medical sense where you work, are
Yeah.
scary. Um, so, how would you respond? How would you speak to our audience and to me about facing fear?
Yeah. This is a great question for me because I've been in therapy for anxiety. I work with clients who deal with anxiety and working through, fear and anxiety being those worries really about like worst case scenarios. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And our brains getting stuck in these patterns of like thinking things that could, I mean, it's possible, right? But they're likely not all true. And so one of the practices that I work on with myself and with the clients that I see for therapy is, how can we talk to our fear and tell it the truth? So I think of for those of you that have seen the show, This Is Us, Beth and Randall, how they go through like worst case scenario. So before they even go into a situation, like let's get it all out there right now. Let's talk about all the things we're afraid of. And when you say them out loud and hear, that's kind of silly if I say it out loud, right? Or, that's not as big a problem as I thought it was. So, for example, a few years ago, we got moved to a new city where we were the officers with the Salvation Army, and I found myself sitting across from my therapist and saying, "I just feel like I'm a failure, like I'm doing everything wrong." And she said, "Okay, well, like, what's the evidence you have for that? Like, have you dropped the ball on anything? Has someone told you that you've done something wrong? Right? Like, are there things that are not lining up?" And I sat there and I said, "Well, no." So
Mm,
she just said, "Well, then why do you feel like a failure?" And so having that dose of reality to where, my thoughts kind of run amok with that fear, but the reality is if I tell my fear the truth, then then I can say, okay, worst case scenario, here's something that could happen. I could fail, right? But that's okay. I'll try again. Right? Everyone might not receive what I have to say or what I have to sing, but I'm not for everyone, right? God's given me a specific audience that I can
mm,
speak to and minister to, and people have been blessed and will be blessed by me honoring God. And so sometimes I think it's just we need to address our fear, we need to talk to our fear, we need to tell it the truth. Um, yeah. It's hard, but I mean, when you do it, you're like, it's mind blowing.
my gosh. Tell your fear the truth. That's beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Sheena, there's probably something that I should have asked you tonight. But I'm just really blown away at the thought and the authenticity that you've brought to Sunday Night Insights tonight, and I hope that everyone has really appreciated that. Um, is there anything that you're just burning to say to our viewers that I didn't ask?
Mm. Um, yeah, just I would just say as a result of this conversation, um, really in thinking about purpose, just reminding myself and you all out there that again, it's not this big profound thing that I have to find my purpose, but what do you already have, right? What has God already given you, and how can you be faithful in those things? And yeah, I those are things that I wish I would have known years ago. And now that I know it, I'm talking to my fear and stepping out and pushing forward. And, there are goals that I still have yet to achieve, and I'm going to keep pressing on toward them. So just know that you're not alone. And I'll say a prayer for each of you tonight as well.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Sheena. Is there a way that folks can contact you if they're interested in having you as a guest speaker or chatting with you about this subject matter tonight?
Yeah. So I do have a website. Just don't look at the blog. I think the last blog post is from like 6 months ago. So I need to get on that. But website, just sheenamarquis.com. So you can find me there. And
Awesome.
Find links to my Instagram feed and other things.
I'm going to make sure I have this on here, sheenamarquis.com. This is it right here?
That's it.
Wonderful. Man, I hope that our viewers and others will visit that. Sheena, thank you so much for being with us this evening. And to all of our viewers, I hope you have a wonderful week. Please make sure that you are telling your fear the truth.
Yeah, amen. And season those turkeys.
That's right. Please season your bird, okay? Oh, man. Well, thank you so much. You to your would you? All right. Bye-bye. God bless you. Well, friends, we will see you next week right here on Sunday Night Insights. Man, I have some amazing friends, and I love to be able to amplify their voices in this way. And so if there are conversations that you want to have, yes, I see everyone. You want Sheena to come back, and we are definitely going to have some conversations about identity, because that was a major theme. I see Sheena in the back room there, so hopefully I'll be in touch with you as well, because we want to do that. But we're just looking forward to next week, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Remember to live a life and a rhythm of gratitude. We'll see you next Sunday night right here on Sunday Night Insights.
Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one that you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend, Dr. Marion Platt.
Where does a coach belong? Should they be ahead of you, clearing the path for you, or behind you, cheering you on? Actually, it's neither. The coach's place is by your side, helping you find your footing each step of the way. Hi, I'm Marion, a Maxwell Leadership Certified coach, speaker, trainer, and teacher. I'm passionate about personal development in all its forms, but my specialty is coaching. I get up each morning excited because I get to watch my clients achieve their goals. There's nothing quite as satisfying as walking alongside someone as they become the person they want to be. And if you have a goal that you're striving toward, or even if you're just looking for some direction on your way, I want to partner with you in that process. John Maxwell has been one of the world's foremost leadership and personal growth experts for more than 40 years. And as a Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach, I am uniquely and powerfully resourced to help you accomplish anything. What does your dream need from you? What do you need to do? Who do you need to meet? Where do you need to spend your time and resources? As your coach, I'll be here to guide you toward your answers to these questions. I want to help you make the uncertain certain. Together, supported by proven, effective self-development principles, we will put a plan in place that grows you steadily toward your goal. The greatest investment you can make is in yourself. Let's make it together. Contact me today to start making your dreams a reality.